I'm Bill from CJ Pony Parts. It wasn't until the SVO came out in 1984 that Ford offered four-wheel disc brakes on a Mustang, and it took 10 full years later until it became a standard feature. If you have a classic Mustang with drum brakes like this one, there are plenty of options for upgrading the rear discs. Today we're going to show you how to install SSBC's rear disc brake conversion kit. This SSBC kit can fit an 8 or 9 inch rear with a 28 spline axle. It includes a set of 10.5 inch vented rotors, new wheel studs, a 45mm single piston caliper with a built-in emergency brake, brake pads, brackets, hoses, an e-brake cable bracket, and all necessary hardware for installation. For this installation, you'll need a lift or a jack and jack stands, 3/8 ratchet, 3/8 torque wrench, 3/4 socket, 5/8 socket, 9/16 socket, 3/4 wrench, 5/8 wrench, 9/16 wrench, 7/16 line wrench, screwdriver, and a hammer. We'll obviously start the process with your car up in the air and the wheels off. You also want to make sure your parking brake is turned off or you won't be able to get your factory drums off. First thing you want to do, start by shimmying the drum to remove it. You want to start with the adjuster at the bottom. Lift up on this tab, and you can turn this to take the pressure off. You might want to get a screwdriver. You can use it by hand usually as well. There we go, turn it all the way down. Now we can start removing our springs. Now we'll turn these so we get the shoes off. Now we can remove the e-brake cable. Once the shoes and springs are off, you want to remove the parking brake cable. It has these little tabs here that goes through the backing plate. Basically what you'll want to do is push these down and then work the cable through the backing plate. And just put the parking brake cable out of the way. Now we can remove our axle. There's 4 nuts that hold the axle to the backing plate. 2 on this side here, and another 2 on this side here. If you don't have a ratcheting wrench, there actually is a hole in the axle specifically designed for removing these. You just line it up with a bolt, now we can put a socket through there. Now we can carefully remove our axle. You want to hold the axle. You don't want to drag it against the axle seals if you can help it. The kit includes longer studs that are going to have to be installed to use the disc brake kit. They're required to press or hammer out the old ones and then press the new ones in. If you don't have a press handy, most local machine shops or auto parts stores can do this very inexpensively for you. Before we can remove the backing plate, now we can disconnect the brake line from our wheel cylinder. If you have a line wrench, I suggest using it. If not, a standard wrench will work. Just be careful not to strip it. Now we can remove the backing plate. Our new brake hose will come off the back here, so what we're doing now is carefully just bend this line back and out of the way. Make sure you don't kink it. Get it just back there for now. We'll adjust that once our caliper's mounted. Next, remove the 4 factory mounting studs. Some of them might just pop out, but you have to give a little tap with a hammer. Once you have the new studs pressed in, we can reinstall the axle. Again, be careful with the axle seal. We're not going to go all the way in. You want to get it to about 1 inch of play left. There you go. Pull the bearing out so the bearing's got about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch. Now we can install the brackets. The caliper mounting brackets are side specific, so you want to make sure you get the correct ones for the side that you're working on. They're labeled left or right. If you look in here when you mount the bracket, you'll see this round groove. That round groove is going to be your new outer bearing retainer. You're going to use that with one of the provided shims we're going to install. The split shim is going to go between the bearing and the original plate right here. They give you a couple of these, so if you get it too twisted up, you can try again. What you're going to do is split it, then carefully put it over the axle. You want to get as close to round as possible because it does have to fit in that groove on your bracket. What you're going to carefully do now is take 2/2 of the bracket, get the shim into it. The shim on the bearing, get the bracket, push the whole assembly into the car. Get it flush, then install the bolts to hold it in place. Sometimes you may have to grab a wrench to kind of just get them started to get them going through. Once you have the bolts in place and put the retaining nuts on, then we'll tighten everything down. Once you get the bolts installed, you'll want to torque to 40 foot-pound. Now we're going to install the bolts and sleeves to start mounting our caliper brackets. One on each corner. These are your caliper brackets. This is actually the orientation that go on the car. The shorter one goes on the top, again facing the back of the car. Longer one goes on the bottom, again also facing the rear of the car. There we go. Now we're going to tighten down the caliper mounting brackets to our main bracket. You notice you only grab 3 nuts. The lower back bolt here you don't want to put a nut on yet. We still have to mount one of the other brackets to this before we're finished. We'll start with the top 2 and then the front one on the bottom. This is your mounting bracket for your e-brake cable. This is going to mount to the bolts on the bottom of your caliper mounting bracket. What you'll want to do with this is bring your e-brake cable back and get an idea of where it's going to be in relation to the caliper. Some cars may be different. If you're using original cable, we found this front hole usually gets you the closest. Now we can tighten down the brackets. Now we'll install the hub-centric ring over the axle. This will center our rotor. You can grab the rotor out of the box, give it a quick cleaning with some brake clean, get everything off and make sure it's nice and clean before you install it. If you have one, grab an open-ended lug nut. You're going to thread it on to hold the rotor in place when installing the caliper. Just makes everything a little bit easier. Now we'll prep the caliper for installation. You want to grab the included brake hose, grab the 2 washers, one on top, the included bolt, another one on the bottom. There we go, tighten that down. Now flip it over and we'll install our brake pads. And our caliper is ready to be installed. Put the caliper up into place. We'll install the caliper bolts to our bracket. Now we're going to install the e-brake cable. It's going to go through the bracket we installed, up through the bottom of the caliper, and clip on right here. Okay, now we're going to connect the hard line to our brake hose. Just want to bend it to a spot where the hose can easily reach. I want to hold the hose and tighten the line. There you go. And that's how you install SSBC's rear disc brake conversion kit on your early Mustang. Keep in mind, if you do have an earlier model than our 70, you may have a residual pressure valve built into your master cylinder. SSBC's instructions detail on how to remove this properly to get proper pressure to your rear brakes. In the case of our 70, it's not going to be an issue. At this point, you'd want to bleed the brakes, starting with the brake furthest from the master cylinder, adjust your parking brake if necessary, and your installation's finished. Overall, it should only take you a couple hours. You'll be back on the road in no time.